Welcome back to the podcast. I'm really glad you decided to join me today, because we're going to tackle a topic that I think hits home for, pretty much everyone. Procrastination. Yeah, that thing we all do but don't really want to admit we do. You know the feeling, right? You sit down at your desk, intending to start that project or reply to that important email, but instead, you end up scrolling through social media, watching random YouTube videos, or cleaning your entire apartment, because suddenly, even scrubbing the sink seems more appealing than getting started. Sound familiar? Yeah, me too. And here's the thing. Procrastination isn't just about being lazy. It's not that simple. A lot of people beat themselves up over procrastinating, thinking they just need more willpower or discipline. But I'm here to tell you, that's not the full story. In fact, procrastination often has deeper roots. It's not about laziness at all. It's about fear. Fear of failure. Fear of not doing something perfectly. Or sometimes even fear of success. Yep, that's a real thing too. So, if you're someone who struggles with procrastination, don't worry. You're not broken. You're just human. Today we're going to break it down together. We'll talk about why we procrastinate, how to understand those sneaky thoughts that keep us stuck, and most importantly, how to overcome it in a way that actually works, without shaming yourself into productivity. Sound good? All right, let's do this. First things first, let's get honest. What are you procrastinating on right now? Be real with yourself. Is it a work project? Maybe a difficult conversation you've been putting off? Or even something personal? Like finally starting that fitness routine you keep promising yourself? Whatever it is, just name it. Because awareness is the first step. You can't fix something if you're pretending it's not there. Got it in your head? Okay, cool. Now I want you to ask yourself, why are you procrastinating on this particular thing? What's the story you're telling yourself about it? Is it, I don't have time right now? Or, I'm just too tired? Or maybe it's, I'll do it later when I can give it my full attention. Yeah, that one's a classic, right? I'll do it when I have the perfect conditions. But guess what? Perfect conditions rarely exist. Life is messy, chaotic, and unpredictable. And waiting for the perfect time is just another way of staying stuck. I get it, though. Starting can feel overwhelming. There's this mental wall we build up that makes the task seem way bigger than it actually is. But here's the trick. The task itself isn't usually the problem. It's our thoughts about the task that trip us up. Let me give you an example. Let's say you need to write a report for work. In your head, you're thinking, ugh, this is going to take forever. I don't even know where to start. What if it's not good enough? That thought spiral creates anxiety, and that anxiety makes you avoid starting. So instead, you distract yourself with something easier, something that gives you instant gratification. But here's the thing. The longer you avoid it, the bigger that mental wall gets, and the more power you give to that anxiety. So how do we break the cycle? One of the best ways I've found is the 2-minute rule. It's simple. Tell yourself you're just going to work on the task for 2 minutes. That's it. No pressure to finish it or make it perfect. Just 2 minutes. What happens is kind of magical. Once you start, you often keep going, because the hardest part isn't doing the task. It's starting the task. Your brain shifts from resistance mode to action mode, and suddenly, it's not as bad as you thought. And even if you only do those 2 minutes, that's still progress. It's better than doing nothing at all. Another strategy I love is breaking tasks down into micro steps. Instead of thinking, I need to clean the entire house, just say, I'm going to clean this one corner of the living room. Instead of, I need to write a whole report, say, I'm just going to write the first sentence. Micro steps are less intimidating, and they build momentum. And momentum is everything. It's what keeps you moving forward even when you don't feel like it. But let's not forget the emotional side of procrastination. Like I said earlier, it's often rooted in fear. So ask yourself, what am I afraid of here? Are you afraid it won't be good enough? Are you afraid of being judged? Or maybe you're afraid of committing to something and not being able to follow through. Whatever it is, acknowledge it. Don't shame yourself for feeling that way. Just notice it and remind yourself that fear doesn't have to control your actions. One of my favorite quotes is from a writer named Anne Lamott. She said, "Perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor." And she's right. Perfectionism keeps us stuck because it tells us that if something isn't perfect, it's not worth doing at all. But here's a radical idea. What if good enough is actually good enough? What if showing up imperfectly is better than not showing up at all? The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your authenticity, your effort, your willingness to try. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, remember this. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. And if you fall off track, that's okay too. It's not about being perfect every day. It's about showing up more often than not. Consistency beats perfection every time. And hey, don't forget to celebrate your wins, no matter how small they are. Did you spend 5 minutes on that task you've been avoiding? That's a win. Did you make one phone call you've been dreading? That's a win. Give yourself credit because progress is progress, no matter how small. All right, I think I've rambled on long enough, but I hope this conversation gave you some new perspectives on procrastination. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, taking small steps, and being kind to yourself along the way. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone who might need a little push to get started. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you next time.